Hi guys, I'm Kangmi Kim, the ZES Master at Korea Institute of Psychoeducation. Today I will fact-check on how conventional knowledge and information on sex are frothy and how men who boast about their sex techniques do their best only to stumble in actual actions. We are exposed to a great amount of knowledge and information on sex these days. Most men have some degree of knowledge and information on sex. Some men boast about their sex techniques and sex ability and even coach on how to have sex successfully. Do they really have sex ability? In the last video, of which the title was Men Who Criticize Women's Appearance, I clearly pointed out that man-centered sex necessarily have limitations. Man-centered sex cannot continue when the man ejaculates or the man cannot experience sensory pleasure. Also, man's sensory pleasure does not necessarily lead to women's pleasure. Women feel intense pleasure of sex only when their own body, mind, and sexuality are activated. Women cannot recognize sexual pleasure when they don't have enough information on sex and don't like having sex with a partner, even when the man partner does his best to make women pleased. On the other hand, when women have enough information on sex and pursue sexual pleasure, they can feel sexual pleasure even before sexual intercourse takes place. These women can feel sexual pleasure regardless of whether the man has good sex techniques, the man is an old partner, or he is a complete stranger. Such phenomenon occurs since women recognize pleasure not from sensory stimulation, but from the amplification of the sensory stimulation connected with feelings in my mind. Men can lead women to orgasm without adopting any sex techniques when they understand how women's mind and feelings operate. When men who boast about sex techniques do not understand women and women's sexuality, they are confessing that they don't have any sex ability. Women don't know that their sexual pleasure is the result of the activation of their own body, mind, and sexuality either. They think that men should lead them to feel sexual pleasure with information and knowledge on sex, and they can have a good sex only when they are loved by men. They mistake men's adopting diverse techniques for men's love and attention. They feel that men's fancy techniques make their sex special. Such thoughts and feelings may actually affect women's recognition of sexual pleasure. That is, men's effort to adopt diverse sex techniques makes women feel good emotionally instead of making them sense enhanced physical sensation. In this case, women's recognition of sexual pleasure is the result of women's misunderstanding and illusion. Men who boast about sex techniques may be a blind pig that finds an acorn, believing that their sex techniques make women reach orgasm. They may believe that they have great sex ability, but actually, they are more likely to develop sexual dysfunctions and psychological disorders by accumulating ZES wounds as well as information and experience of sex. When men develop psychological disorders and perceive women partners only as sexual objects, they can't realize that they have sexual dysfunctions. They can temporarily function sexually when they adopt new techniques or they meet new partners. They blame partners when they cannot function and do not hesitate to change partners. Sorry, but it is not the woman partner but you who have problems. Men who have true sex ability should be able to build a utopia of sex with any woman. Of course, it is possible when you restore the ability to comply with women in every aspect for activating sexuality, not when you adopt all the fancy skills of sex that exist in the whole world. Theoretically, for man-centered sex to be successful, men should be able to read all the details of women's emotional state and how they change minute by minute, as well as women's perception of sensory stimulation. How could anyone do that through the whole course of having sex? Most men think that they can succeed when they diligently do their part for foreplay, intercourse, and some afterplay. then having sex usually turns out to be less ecstatic than they had planned or imagined. Men may imagine that they will have such great sex experiencing the utmost pleasure, but in reality, they usually cannot achieve what they planned. It goes as usual with all the routinized pattern, or they realize that they have reached the ceiling as soon as they ejaculate, no matter how hard they try. Men usually have a plausible plan before they start the game, but things don't go as planned in reality. Men who have true sex ability do not have knowledge and information on sex, do not plan on how to go about in having sex, and do not even think about sex during daily life. However, once they get to play in the real game, they can let the woman partner have the utmost sexual pleasure, share the pleasure with the same level, and generate passion and positive energy. They don't lose the power and energy after they finish having sex and continue as long as women want. They live with energy and vitality in daily life and work really hard for their achievement in whatever they do. Men's sex ability is not built by knowledge, information, or experience on sex. If you see men who boast about their sex ability around you, you can rightly assume that they are just babbling on since they cannot perform well in the real game. Please check for how men can build true sex ability before you waste all the time and effort to no avail.